Hi everyone, it's wonderful to be with you again and to share this week's blog with you. The name of this week's blog is called The Afterlife, and basically it is an introduction to a series of talks that we're going to be doing over the next few weeks regarding the journey of our soul. So let's begin. Now, death and life after death is not an easy topic to discuss. However, it is a topic that I have been very interested in and have studied extensively from both a physical and a spiritual perspective. I've read countless books about near-death experiences, past life experiences, reincarnation, and mediumship, which is, of course, about the gifted men and women who can communicate with those who have passed on. I've studied and also have had personal experiences regarding signs from the afterlife and how we can connect with our loved ones who have crossed. And finally, I've explored a fascinating body of research regarding the investigation of life between lives. And I've also had a couple of personal experiences regarding this topic as well. And people often ask me, and I've also asked myself too, why focus on the afterlife? Would it be a better use of one's time to focus on what's happening now in this life? The answer I have discovered from research, study, and meditative inner work is that learning about the entire cycle of the journey of the soul helps us to live more authentic, balanced, and meaningful lives now. Understanding the physical experience from the vantage point of the soul demystifies death and the afterlife. Instead, it gives higher meaning and a higher spiritual perspective to all experiences here on the earth plane, both the joyful ones and the painful ones. In Eastern cultures, such as Hinduism, for example, death is a natural part of life. Hindus believe in reincarnation, which is that until we reach the full evolution of our soul, we will continue to return to the earth plane, probably living many lives. They also believe in karma, which is a combination of cosmic and moral cause and effect. In other words, we're responsible for our thoughts and actions, and eventually we'll have the opportunity to rectify and balance the karma incurred by our choices through reincarnation. Hindus rarely have an advanced directive like a DNR, do not resuscitate, because they believe that being kept alive by a machine, for example, interferes with karma and inhibits the natural course of death. For this culture, death is not to be feared because it is not the end of life. Life will continue. Therefore, it's much easier for them to accept and talk about it. That said, Hindus are not immune from sadness, sorrow, and grief that's inevitable when losing someone that we love to physical death. However, along with those emotions, there's also great joy and celebration in knowing that physical death is simply change and their lives will continue. In Western cultures, like here in the US, it's not so simple. Though things are changing slowly, death continues to be a topic to be avoided until we are directly faced with it and cannot escape it. We either face our own mortality or that of a loved one, and then, kind of like a frightened child being forced to leave our parents and enter the scary unknown and head off to our first day of school, we sometimes fight with everything we have to avoid the inevitable. As late as the 1950s, the topic of death was an avoided topic of conversation. In 1958, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swiss psychiatrist, moved to the US. Once here, she was shocked at the way hospitals she worked with dealt with death and dying. Everything was huge and depersonalized and very technical, she said many years later. She also said the dying were actually left alone in hospitals and no one talked to them. At that point, this courageous woman made it her life's work to change the way we view death and dying. She gave a voice to the terminally ill, making it acceptable to talk about death and what awaits us during the dying process and also after we cross over. Ross was met with stiff opposition from colleagues in the medical field, but eventually people stood in line to hear what she had to say. She was the pioneer of hospice, and palliative care. She created the 5 stages of death, which include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. So Kubler-Ross helped the way we view death and dying. Her work did and still does help both the dying person and their loved ones to accept death by making it easier to acknowledge and understand what happens when we die. If you'd like to learn more about the life of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her work, she wrote a fantastic book called On Death and Dying. She also has many other books that you might want to check out. So, talking about the afterlife and what happens after we die and move on from the physical world before we're actually faced with it is still today a topic that's uncomfortable for many, but not all. Sometimes, I think it's important to mention this, sometimes certain religions tell us that communication with the dead is wrong, and it's against the teachings of that religion. In that case, one must do what feels right for them, hopefully without judgment for those who find the need to explore it. For a large majority of us, we are hungry for any information we can find that can help us believe that life continues once we die. We want proof. We long to know that our loved ones are okay, happy, and peaceful wherever they are. Some want to go a step further and hear from our loved ones in spirit. They long just to tell them once more that they love them. They also want to know that the love between us and them does not die with the end of a physical life. Then there are some people like me who need to delve further and further into the meaning of life, death, and beyond. I believe that understanding life after death by hearing of other people's experiences of it and having valid personal experiences helps us integrate life and death in a healthier way. I believe there is great wisdom we can access by connecting with the other side or the spirit world. Spirits can reveal to us what they have learned since returning home to spirit, and that can help us live a better, more purposeful life now. I also believe that through a greater acceptance of and belief in things we cannot perceive through the 5 senses has allowed humanity to move to a higher state of consciousness. In doing so, the veil between this world and the next has thinned. We have learned how to raise our vibration, and spirit has learned how to lower theirs so that we can connect the 2 worlds, making communication between us achievable. This has made it possible for all of us to have experiences that can unite us with our loved ones in spirit, as well as our angels, spirit guides, and God. I hope over the next few weeks to discuss different topics that I listed in this blog post, and I will do my best, I promise, to discuss each one responsibly, sensitively, and professionally, by giving you both direct experiences from myself and others, and also offering research that has been done by some in the medical community. The discussion about death and loss can be emotional as well. So I'm sure we will be discussing many of the feelings that come up as we delve into the mysteries of both death as well as the continuation of life once we move on. I hope that you will feel free to share any experiences that you may have had regarding our discussions here. And I thank you very much for allowing me to touch your lives in such a personal way. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to meeting with you again next week to pick up where we left off. I hope everybody has a super terrific, wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Namaste.